mourn the loss of life that is happening right now. Having said that, let's get started on the Charleston area League of Women Voters sponsoring a virtual candidate forum for Charleston City Council district election. Shana Howell from the Area League is our communications person, and she is our Zoom host for tonight. If you were to have any technical difficulties or questions, please put them in the chat box, and Shana will respond to them. My name is Judy Pepper, and I'm the Vice President of Administration for the Charleston Area League of Women Voters, and I will be your moderator tonight for the Charleston City Council District 9 Candidate Forum. Ann Brumell, another league member, is our timekeeper tonight. Ann, there you go, raising her hand. As each candidate is speaking, Ann will hold up a sign stating 30 seconds remaining, and then a stop sign when a candidate should stop speaking. We ask that our audience stay on mute and turn off their video during the candidate forum. We also note that this event is being live streamed on the Charleston Area League of Women Voters YouTube channel, and it will be available there and on the League's website for later viewing. A candidate forum is not a debate. It is an opportunity for candidates to share their platform with the community. The sponsor of this event, the Charleston Area League of Women Voters, is nonpartisan. Therefore, this is a nonpartisan event. We ask that candidates do not display any campaign literature on their screens during the forum. On November 7th, 2023, Charleston County Council District 9 voters will choose a new city council member for their district. Only voters in the Charleston City Council District 9, which is West Ashley, will be able to vote in this election. So these are the following Charleston City Council District 9 candidates who are in attendance tonight. Francis Marion Baylott III, William Gilliard, Kenneth Merolda, and William Tinkler. The fifth candidate for this office, Mike Gadsden, declined to participate in this forum. Now let's go over the forum format, please. Candidates will respond to questions in rotating alphabetical order by the last name. For example, for the first question, Mr. Baylott will respond first, then Mr. Gilliard, and so on. For the second question, Mr. Gilliard will respond first, then Mr. Merolda and Mr. Tinkler. No questions will be asked by me, the moderator, that are directed at only one candidate or might be of a personal nature. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to make an opening and a closing statement. Opening statements will go in alphabetical order, and closing statements will go in reverse alphabetical order. The candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to the questions. A candidate may take an additional 60 seconds for a rebuttal of each question after all of the candidates have responded to the question. A rebuttal is an opposing argument or a contradiction to what an opposing candidate has said. If you wish to make a rebuttal, signal us by raising your hand, and a candidate is only allowed one rebuttal per question. I will say on a personal note, I will obviously do my best to see your hand raised, but if you do require a rebuttal, please keep your hand raised until I acknowledge you. We ask that candidates use closing statements to summarize the issues that they have already discussed and their vision for the position that they seek. I just want to emphasize one more part is that candidate responses, please try to be as specific as you can. These questions are well thought out, and we hope that they will elicit very specific answers from you. So let's start with our opening statements. Mr. Baylott, you have 60 seconds.
Good evening. Thank you for having me and sharing your words earlier, Judy. I do feel kind of silly sitting here talking about traffic, thinking about the tragedy that's occurring in Israel over the past week. I'm going to do my best to maintain my enthusiasm for those issues. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this and for all the work they do in the community that I've seen for many years, especially some of the work Shane has been doing with redistricting. You guys do amazing work, and I appreciate what you're doing. I've already wasted half my time. My name is Francis Baylott. I live in West Ashley. I was born and raised in Charleston. I'm a father of 2 teenagers. I'm a medical researcher. I'm what some might call a community activist, community organizer. But I just think I do what engaged citizens need to do, and that's to hold elected officials accountable. And sometimes disappointment, dishonesty, and other reasons stop those elected officials from accountability, and you just have to take the job for yourself. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baylott. Mr. Gilliard, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. I just want to say on the onset, I appreciate the Women League of Voters inviting me, giving me this opportunity and the opportunity for you all to vet me. Thank you very much. When people ask me, why am I running? I simply say, the obvious thing is to serve, to give service to my constituents in each one of the areas that I represent, to be a clarion call for their needs and their concerns. I'm recently retired, but I am the chairman of several organizations, nonprofit organizations that work with the communities and the corporate and the local communities. I have 3 children, my wife and I just have a grandbaby that I love to death. So that's basically what I'm about, but mainly to be of service to the communities, of all the communities that I serve, that in District 9. And that's what it should be about, service.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilliard. Mr. Marolda, you have a 60-second opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this. My reason for running is I attended the College of Charleston for urban design. I earned a master's degree, and then I attended Clemson University for historic preservation. And upon graduation, I decided to get more involved in the community. I was appointed to the West Ashley Revitalization Commission, on which I have served for 3.5 years. And I also sought a leadership role as neighborhood president of Avondale. And in those 2 positions, I had the opportunity to work directly on some of the challenges in the district. I then went on to co-found 2 nonprofits, West Ashley Connect and CHS for Ukraine. I saw needs that needed to be addressed, and I took action to address them. The reason I am running builds directly on this. I feel that I've done what I can as a volunteer, and I have the education and the direct experience to make a difference as an elected official. So that is my reason. I hope to bring a sense of community, the pride and ownership of community that I've built through those positions to City Council. I'm not interested in the ideologies, the rivalries, the legacies, or any of the rest of the things that have been bogging down City Council recently. So that's my reason.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Marolda. Mr. Tinkler.
So, good evening. I want to also thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. The city council races don't get a whole lot of attention, and it's really helpful that y'all are here presenting our platforms to the public. I want to thank my wife, who's upstairs watching my 2 boys right now. There sounds like elephants upstairs. But they're watching the Braves game right now, and so if I go out, it's probably because I don't have enough bandwidth at my house. But bottom line is, I'm running for this race because of those 2 boys. I grew up in this district, raised in Sandhurst. I'm in Park Shore 3 now. I've been here my whole life, and I've seen over those 40 years some changes here in West Ashley, but not enough. And we see the debates that are going on at City Council. We see the obstruction that's going on at City Council for projects just down the street, and I want to get on City Council and fight for those for my children.
Thank you, Mr. Tinkler. Now we will start with question number 1, and we will go back to starting with Mr. Baylott. Please ask me to repeat the question if need be. What strengths or experiences do you have that will make you an asset to the Charleston City Council? Mr. Baylott, 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. One of the strengths that I hold dear is that I'm willing to change my opinion based on evidence. I think that an elected official needs to make policy decisions based on evidence, based on feedback from the community. You can come to an issue with your own personal opinion, and you can come to an issue with advice from people who think they know it all. But until you can really sit back and analyze all the information and take in all the data and all the feedback, I think you are not really qualified to make a decision until you can integrate all those things into a decision. I've seen decisions made on city council that frankly just don't make sense to me. The Sumar Street program was ready to go and ready to move forward, and then all of a sudden it's dead. Things like this are confusing to me. And when I serve on city council, I want to be transparent about how I'm making decisions and make sure that the public is aware of the data and the feedback and the evidence I'm using to bring decisions forward. And that I'll be a man of my word, and I'll stick to my word when I make promises about certain projects, certain decisions, and certain positions. Another thing I think that makes me a good candidate is I'll speak truth. I'll put my foot in my mouth sometimes, no doubt about it. But I think Charleston is a little bit too nice sometimes about difficult situations, outside dark money groups taking over elections. And I think you need people to call it out and tell it like it is. Thank you. Sorry, I went over.
Right. That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Baylott. All right, next, Mr. Gilliard. Let me repeat the question. What strengths or experience do you have that will make you an asset to the Charleston City Council?
I believe that my strengths lie in the fact that I have been in management almost basically all my life. And when I say management, I mean dealing with people like I am going to be dealing with city council. As a matter of fact, as I walk around these different communities, I run into several people that said, my kid worked for you, or my grandmother, and that makes me feel good. But I bring the leadership qualities that bring people together, having been able to manage and direct hundreds of people, not 5, 6, 7, 8, but I had a district from one of the jobs that I held that encompassed South Carolina and part of North Carolina. And with that, you get a diverse group of people, and you get people with a lot of ideas and a lot of arguments. It was my job to help pull those ideas together for one goal. So that's a strength I have, as well as working with community organizations almost all of my adult life. And when I say community organizations, I'm talking about the Chamber of Commerce. I'm talking about leadership with cities and schools, again, that work with communities. I'm talking about the Charleston Leadership Council that deals with mentoring young men. I did that over the past, 25 years, where we deal with young men, low-income housing and middle income,
All right.
and help them to achieve their successes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilliard. Mr. Marolda, what strengths or experiences do you have that will make you an asset to the Charleston City Council?
My education combined with my prior service to the community is what has prepared me to serve on city council. I've picked up litter. I have stocked blessing boxes. I have documented the history. I have written policy reports. I have advised on numerous projects in this district and throughout West Ashley. I'm also a business owner, my business based in West Ashley, which is where I am tonight, my office. And I have a sense of investment in the community that is very broad and works in several different ways. We have policy and the governance section where I volunteer. We have me as a business owner, and then the nonprofit sector that I described earlier with West Ashley Connection CHS for Ukraine. So the experiences that I've had have given me a sense of the pulse of the community, the needs, the daily needs, from stocking the blessing boxes and literally feeding the poor, to advising on how to change things in the future with the Avondale intersection realignment, 829 St. Andrews Boulevard, planning in the long run, make sure that our community has projects that are sustainable, that don't overwhelm our infrastructure, that meet our needs like housing, traffic. All of these kind of come together for me. And my professional experience in real estate has given me the understanding of affordable housing as well. So it's the all-encompassing approach: private sector, governance, nonprofit, and education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tinkler, would you want to tell us, please, your strengths and experiences that you have that will make you an asset to Charleston City Council?
Sure. So when I look at the role of a city council person, I think they need to both be a representative of the community and an advocate for the constituents of that district. I have lived in this district, in this community now my whole life for 40 years. I know the people here very well. I went to school with them. I went to church with them, and I know how they think, and I know how to represent them on city council. On top of that, I'm an attorney by trade. I've worked hard, went to law school. I worked in one of South Carolina's largest firms for a number of years. Then I decided I wanted to start my own small business and hung a shingle, essentially practicing here in the community. And I've represented hundreds of clients and advocated for them. And I look at the role of a city councilman a lot like the role of a lawyer, where you're solving problems, you're trying to resolve issues, and that's precisely what I do every day. And I think as an advocate, as a representative, I can serve this community. I think those are my strengths.
Thank you. All right, question number 2. We're going to start with you, Mr. Gillard. What are your top 3 concerns for Charleston District 9?
My top 3 concerns are: 1, traffic. And if you're traveling West Ashley, you know what I'm talking about. That's 1. Number 2 is crime. Even though, in spite of what people think, there is crime or avid crime in our communities. And I'm talking about vandalization, theft, and things like that, more so in other communities than say, may not be your community, but the communities that I walk around and talk to, people are concerned about drugs and theft, vandalization, and things like that. Number 3 would be, let's see, I went to, we all talk about flooding, but we all forget about West Ashley in terms of flooding in our areas. And I can name specific areas, Maryville, Ashleyville, even in my area, Park Shore, we have flooding, and we need to do more. Things are being started, but I think too late, and I'm glad. But there are other things that we can do in terms of flooding in our areas. That's number 3. And I think I have some more time. But to bring you up to date, I'm talking about things specifically like what we call the suicide merge that needs to be worked on. And I have other things, but I'll submit my time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gillard. Mr. Marolda, what are your top 3 concerns for Charleston City District 9?
Thank you. First is affordable housing, and I have a plan to address that through missing middle housing. That is a benefit of my job that has afforded me an understanding of what is affordable, how we build affordable units without needing these large apartment complexes. They have a place in the economic ecosystem, but they are not the sole housing provider that we need. We need small scale multifamily. So that then transitions into my next concern, which is overdevelopment. Shopping centers are going to be revitalized, and that's a good thing. We need that. But we also need to make sure that neighborhoods aren't left behind in the process. And that's a fine line that I learned how to walk as neighborhood president of Avondale. How do you take legitimate concerns by a neighborhood and approach an upcoming project with a developer and talk through some of the challenges? The third is larger urban design challenges, such as the suicide merge and the Avondale intersection realignment to the 17 alignment. So a lot of those are county level projects, but the land that's created in land swaps is under city jurisdiction. And we have to consider how these projects are going to relate to private sites. Again, my background's in urban design, so I see these challenges through the lens of my education. And I believe that having a councilman in this position who understands these challenges will be an asset in tackling them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Marolda. Mr. Tinkler, your top 3 concerns for Charleston District 9?
So I believe the top 3 concerns are one, an increasing population, 2, aging infrastructure over here in West Ashley, and 3, what I call the loss of a sense of community that we're experiencing over here in West Ashley. And I believe these are all related in a way, but as it relates to increasing population, the city needs to take a very active role in making sure that if we cannot stop the growth over here in the district, we need to figure out where that's going to be. And I've been saying that the Sam Rittenberg corridor is a perfect place to put mixed use, use these blighted properties on Sam Rittenberg to put mixed use properties, try to revitalize and repurpose a lot of these properties. I think over the last 20 years, West Ashley has just not gotten the attention from the city that I think that we've deserved, and a lot of that has to do with how the city is developed. And you look at tourism, you look at the tremendous flooding issues that the city has, but we need to focus on building communities over here in West Ashley. That includes neighborhood associations, parks, and recreational programs.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Baylott, what are your top 3 concerns?
I have a lot of concerns. I have a lot more than 3, but I'm going to do the best to narrow it down for you. I think the concerns that are top are not only in this district, but really citywide. And that's what some folks have already touched on, and I want to agree with them. Flooding is a serious problem. When I was in high school and I survived Hurricane Hugo, I rode my bike around the next day and I saw the immense power of water. That year, we only had 2 flooding events. Last year, we had almost 70 flooding events. We're seeing water everywhere all the time, whether it's raining, whether the sun's out, and this water is going to cause serious problems throughout the district and throughout the city. One thing we need to start with is how development is impacting the increase in flooding. When we have natural areas that drain water, we need to make sure they're still allowed to drain water and that we don't cover them with pavement. That's just one small thing to step. I think in that same vein, our infrastructure, as others have mentioned, is outdated. It's bursting at the seams. It can't handle the amount of cars that are coming across it on often, and it's also not modern. It's focused on automobiles. It needs to be focused on alternative ways of transportation. My children are unable to ride their bikes to the movie theater. We need to change that. We need more bike access. The Cosgrove Bridge is a disgrace, really. We should do better in our infrastructure, not only to make it more modern, but I get 3. Let me just say 1, affordable housing. I talked too long. Sorry.
Not a problem. Thank you. We appreciate those answers. We are going to start with you, Mr. Marolda, on this question.
Judy, can I do a rebuttal to myself?
No,
I'm just kidding.
Probably not. You will have other time to make other comments. So, Mr. Marolda, What are your thoughts on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Perimeter Protection Project and the City of Charleston's flooding and sea level rise strategy? And do you think the current plans will adequately address the flooding issues?
So that plan is created with the idea of stopping storm surge. It does not address rainfall and it does not address tidal flooding. That the mandate that the Army Corps of Engineers had was to protect the cultural, governmental, and economic institutions of the city. That's what it does. It protects the very heart of the city. The theory being that if those institutions were wiped out, we would see regional collapse, not just the city or the county, regional collapse. So I support proceeding with the plan only because there's no alternative, at least as of now. It does not adequately address flooding citywide. We need other measures to do that, and that's why we have the Dutch Dialogues plan. I was very vocal on Sumar Street that we had an opportunity to implement one of the concepts in the Dutch Dialogues plan, which was stormwater detention on the high ground. Sam Rittenberg Boulevard is topographically the high ground. That's where we need to put stormwater detention. It's in the plan. We passed the plan. We need to follow the plan. That's my perspective on all the plans that we pass. So we need a more holistic approach that's going to tackle stormwater. That plan, the perimeter protection plan, will achieve its objective, but we need more beyond that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Tinkler, do you need me to repeat the question?
Just our thoughts on the strategy of stormwater.
Yeah, it was extensive. My apologies. Let me just go ahead and repeat it. It was a long question. What are your thoughts on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Perimeter Protection Project and the City of Charleston's flooding and sea level rise strategy? And do you think that the current plan will adequately address the flooding issues?
Well, I think the plan is sort of still in its early stages. I mean, they're still negotiating a lot of the details with the Army Corps of Engineers. The bottom line is I fully support the Army Corps of Engineers involvement and the city's engagement with the Army Corps of Engineers. I believe it's a sea change in the thinking here in Charleston, where we need to be focused on the next 50, 100 years. We're looking at the data, we've seen the models, we need to be prepared. And what I'm looking at, it's not only the seawall that's been proposed, but also the studies that they're planning to do over here in West Ashley, which Mr. Gilliard and Mr. Baylott have both talked about flooding in the campaign, and I agree with them that that is something that over here in West Ashley we need to be serious about. I've talked to many people knocking on doors in this campaign, and you look at over in Ashley Forest or Avondale, they're dealing with ditches that aren't being cleaned by the city. They're dealing with donut holes where you don't know where the city or the county is got the jurisdiction to do the work. We need to have a comprehensive strategy, and engaging the Army Corps of Engineers is the greatest idea we've had so far.
All right, thank you. Mr. Baylott, what are your thoughts on the Corps of Engineers Perimeter Protection Project and the City of Charleston's flooding and sea level rise strategy? And do you think that that is an adequate plan that will address the flooding issues?
I think it's a good start. I think a lot of great plans have been developed over the past couple of years. Ken mentioned the Dutch Dialogues. I think a lot of plans came out of many great meetings with a lot of expertise, but what we've seen is a failure to act. And I think that's due to a lack of leadership. I think that's due to some political maneuvering that most people don't understand. But I think we need to look at a comprehensive strategy that puts us on a trajectory to be safe over the next 100 years, so that if flooding increases like it continues, we're going to have flooding every day. And we're going to have lack of access to emergency services. I used to work at MUSC, and when it floods, you can't get to one of the emergency rooms. If it floods a lot, you can't get to two of them. And that's one of the only pediatric trauma centers in the Southeast. we're going to have to trade in our ambulances for boats. A lot of folks, as William mentioned, are having trouble in their neighborhoods just because ditches are not cleaned out properly. On Marvin, near where I live, we've got some folks that have water coming right up to their steps. And something can be done right away to fix that. And I'm just really confused as to why that's not happening. Other small projects that should have a large impact that I think are important. I like the Forest Acres Drainage Project. I like things that are working with gravity and the natural flow of water to manage it and put it in the right direction. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baylott. Mr. Gilliard, your thoughts on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Perimeter Protection Project and the City of Charleston's flooding and sea level rise strategy? And do you think this plan will adequately address the flooding?
Yes, I do agree with the Corps of Engineers plans, but I also have to say, Mr. Marola and Mr. Tinkler must have been climbing in my head because they're thinking like I'm thinking, especially when Mr. Marola talked about the seawall, and Mr. Tinkler talked about, I elaborate a little more about cleaning the drains, because even though we have the seawall, the bottom line is that different communities, almost all communities, are experiencing the flooding. And what I think needs to happen, as has been stated somewhat already, is that more cleaning of the drains in these specific areas would help the overflow. Now we're implementing a project right now on Playground Road. I think that's wonderful, that's beautiful, but we started too late, and we need to continue with that, with this new drainage for our cities and pumping this water away from these communities. That's paramount right now. And Tinkler and Marola are right. Those are things that will keep at least some of the level down in the communities. And we need to I will be an advocate to get our public service people to make sure that those drains are cleaned on a more consistent basis. That would stop some of it, not all of it, but it's a start.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gilliard. Mr. Tinkler, we will start with you on this next question. In your opinion, what is the best way to handle increased traffic in the West Ashley now and in the future? Mr. Tinkler.
So, as I said in answering a previous question, we've got Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, and which I believe is a perfect place to put mixed use properties in these blighted areas. The Villages Shopping Center, for example, where the Chuck E. Cheese's used to be. By putting in these mixed use properties where you have stores on the bottom, you've got or offices on the bottom and some residential on the top, you start to get people thinking about living where they work, and that pulls vehicles off the streets. Other things that, and I saw Katie Zimmerman is in the audience here tonight. Katie has been working very hard to bring connectivity to the Charleston area, including West Ashley, and we've made some strides there. But we need to focus on connecting our various neighborhoods so people aren't having to get in a car, and we need to be able to work on streetscaping and try to make things safer for people. And Sumar Street was a perfect example where the county was trying to come in and make some safer intersections there. But of course, that's been put on hold, and that's something that I'll be fighting for if elected to city council.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Baylott, in your opinion, what's the best way to handle increased traffic in West Ashley now and in the future?
I think the best way is to increase access for non-automobile modes of transportation. I live in Lenovar. I worked at MUSC for a very long time. I tried riding my bike to work. I tried catching the bus. I tried a bunch of different things to try to get over to MUSC. I could literally walk to MUSC. I'm close enough. But because of our infrastructure, it's unsafe and it's dangerous and it scares me. The Ashley River crossing, the pedestrian bridge that City Council all but one voted for, is a great step in the right direction. I wish it would have been up when I was working at MUSC. It would have saved me about $1,200 a year in parking. As I mentioned earlier, you know, my kids are often wanting to ride their bikes around and go to TJ Maxx, go to Target, go to the movies. I have to drive them all the way to Daniel Island where they can ride their bikes around safely and do things like that, where I don't have to worry about them dying. So I do think an important thing to do right now, more of, is to increase access for biking, pedestrians, and also improving access in the bus system. I used to ride the bus. I used to have to sit on the side of the road and on Highway 61 in a pile of grass and an ant bed with no bus stop, no protection from the sun, no protection from the elements. We got to change that. That's been improving. We got to do more of that. And so I think that's a good step in the right direction. I think we need to curb some of the development. We need to make sure that we look at how the development's impacting the infrastructure that will be caused by that development.
Thank you, Mr. Baylock. Mr. Gilliard, what's the best way to handle increased traffic in West Ashley now and in the future?
You know, that's a good question, because I often think that we need to have more mass transit with buses and things where we could park and ride. I think we need to, and when I get on city council, that is going to be an area that I'm going to explore, because we have too many cars on Sam Rittenberg, going across the Cosgrove Bridge at certain times. Those are areas of importance that need to be dealt with as far as the safety is concerned. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to work on safety. Actually, I was the chairman of our safety committee at the E.I. DuPont Corporation. I see things like, and I'll be specific, I see things like the opportunity to talk to Mr. Harrells, God bless him, when he was alive, about putting, they have yellow structures up there now to prevent people from crossing. But we need to get a more permanent structure to stop cars from crossing over on that bridge if they have an accident. The suicide merge, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. I don't need to go into explanation about that. That suicide merge, even before we do anything with Sumar Street, and you can put me on record as saying, why don't we put caution signs to slow the traffic down? Caution signs are some stop signs in that merge to help people know where they're going. And my time is almost running out, so I'm going to leave that. Those things are crucial right now, and we need to implement that.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Marolda, what's in your opinion, the best way to handle increased traffic West Ashley now and in the future?
Thank you. So I'm going to start by explaining a project that I have actually worked on, which is the Highway 17 intersection realignment. That's Avondale Avenue, Magnolia, DuPont, Orleans, and there are planned intersection improvements at Wapu. Both through my service on the Revitalization Commission and as neighborhood president of Avondale, I attended meetings, I advocated for this project, and I helped talk through the logistics of how we reconfigure these intersections, particularly the one at Magnolia and Avondale. That project is designed to funnel traffic down 17 through coordinated lights. So that, along with pedestrian improvements. So to square off the intersections to make it safer, but also to funnel traffic quicker so that the cars don't have to divert down neighborhood streets and speed. I've also worked on the bike ped improvements as a volunteer. So Charleston Moves, I volunteered with many times doing traffic counts, pedestrian counts, bicycle counts, because it's something I'm deeply passionate about. I've been struck on my bicycle 4 times since I moved to the city, 4 times. And thankfully, you know, my injuries weren't life-threatening, but other people haven't been as lucky. So I've taken it upon myself to go out there, to get involved, and to do what I can. Reducing the number of cars is only part of the solution. We need the bike ped options as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We will start with Mr. Baylott for the next question. The final decision on what to do with the old Piggly Wiggly site on Sumar Street is on hold until after the November election. If you are elected to City Council, what course of action regarding that site would you support?
I support the recommendation that came out of the West Ashley Revitalization Committee. I saw that happening early on. I attended WARC back when Councilman Lewis and Michael Miller were serving on that council. And this has been a fundamental central issue for members of our district for so long. I'm disappointed that we're not having that meeting tonight in a public space. I think it was interesting that we had to have this on Zoom because League of Women Voters could not find a place to have a free meeting that the public could attend. That just speaks volumes to me that our community doesn't have a place where we could have this meeting. So that, that's not a perfect plan. I don't think any plan is perfect. And in my many years of advocacy, I have learned that you cannot let perfection get in the way of progress. You've got to take the wins that you get when you get them. And I am partly running because I'm disappointed in all the talk that came out of West Ashley Revitalization Committee. No disrespect to your service, Ken, I appreciate it. But when it came time to move forward on it, our council member and others dragged their feet and waffled. And I just don't understand that. It should be done, it should be completed, and we should be working on the next projects that go along with that and match it up and connect that revitalization all the way down to 61, which William has already mentioned needs a lot of work.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gilliard, what do you believe the final decision for the old Piggly Wiggly site on Sumar Street should be, and what course of action would you support?
Living over here in West Ashley for over 20 some odd years, what I see, and I'll just speak frank with you, I see us using the Sumar Street as a political football. And what I mean by that is, how many of our politicians, we've had the West Ashley committee meetings and things like that, but how many politicians have spoken to the constituents? How many have asked the constituents, what do you want to see? When I speak to people in my communities, some of them don't even know these meetings are going on. And you know and I see option 1, option 2, option 3, but ask this question: what's wrong? Piggly Wiggly is gone, but what's wrong with another supermarket that people can utilize? After all, they closed the the Bilo over there. They closed that. We don't have that anymore. They shut down Piggly Wiggly. But what's wrong with instituting another nice supermarket in that spot? After we correct the suicide merge, that's the first thing that needs to be corrected. But what's wrong with another supermarket in that spot? I'll just leave you with that question.
All right, Ms. Merolda, it is that decision is on hold and until after the November. If you're elected to City Council, what course of action would you take regarding that? Mr. Merolda, it's your turn. Mm-hmm.
Point of order first. I did have my hand up for a rebuttal before I provide my own answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to keep this very brief and just say that the West Ashley Revitalization Commission, while it has reviewed this project, is an advisory board only. And so it doesn't have the authority to adjudicate or push through projects. It advises on projects to ensure collaboration between city, county, PSD, and stakeholders in the community. That's its goal, and it has achieved that. So WARC is not tasked with passing any one project. It's advisory. That's all I'm going to say for my rebuttal.
All right, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, what course of action, if you're elected to City Council, would you support regarding that site?
I would continue on the same course I've been on with Sumar Street for the past 2.5 years since it first came before WARC, or at least the first time I reviewed it on WARC, which was, I believe, early 2021, which is to say a high investment, high return approach. This site, as I previously mentioned, is high ground. So Dutch Dialogues plan, we need a stormwater detention component. It's also in a TIF district, tax increment finance district. Property taxes on this site for commercial development have been forfeited by the school board to go towards infrastructure. Therefore, we need some commercial development. We also need a civic center. My colleagues are correct that we don't have anywhere to meet tonight. Well, I also experienced that on Wark, which has no consistent place to meet. And I also experienced it as neighborhood president of Avondale, where our neighborhood association similarly had nowhere to meet. So we need a community center where neighborhood associations, city boards and commissions can meet to help residents stay engaged and informed. And lastly, we need a high density or some kind of density project. The Charleston City Plan 2021 recommended city center density for future land use. That's the highest category of density allowed. As I said earlier, we have to follow the plans we pass. It's following through on our word. This is what we recommended. This is what we told the public we're doing. Now we need to do it. High investment, high return. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tinkler, if you were elected, what would be your course of action regarding the Sumar Street?
So I remember about 25 years ago when this particular area, the Ashley Landing area, was deemed a city center by the city. At that point in time, the city did not own the property and nothing happened. 10 years ago, the Piggly Wiggly went out of business. 6 years ago, they tried to put a gas station there and the people revolted. The city bought the property and here we are 6 years later. And I would ask, can I also get my rebuttal, by the way, with this response? But the 6 years, we've had 6 years and nothing has happened. And that area was used as a dumping ground for debris after a hurricane. And I know Mr. Gilliard talks about going around and talking to people in the district. What do the people in the district want? Well, I agree. Talking to people over in the Ashleyville area, they want a grocery store after the Bilo is closed down. But at the same time, I've talked to these people in the district. I've talked to hundreds of people in the district, and they want restaurants. They don't want to go downtown anymore to fight with traffic. And this is precisely what the city has offered. And it's passed the WARC review, it's passed the design review board review, it's ready to go. And if elected to city council, that will be my first motion, is to put that option back on the table.
Okay. Did you have a rebuttal in regard to something someone said? And you may have another 60 seconds if you do.
If I can reserve my rebuttal, because it looks like the others want to rebut as well. So,
all right. It just needs to be a rebuttal to something that someone else said versus another 60 seconds for you to explain yourself, and just making sure that everybody understands what rebuttal is.
That's right. Well, I was rebutting Mr. Gilliard's point about what people wanted is my
okay.
But I'll reserve my rebuttal.
All right, thank you. Mr. Baylott, you have a rebuttal?
I believe Roy had his hand up before me.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Mr.
appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead, Mr. Gilliard.
Yeah, this was actually, it started with Mr. Marola, but I'm also going to roll it over into Mr. Tinkler. When people say high profit, benefit for the area, and they have spoken to the people in those districts, I reject that notion simply because I've spoken to hundreds of individuals myself, and they tell me what they want. They're concerned that, and I say political football, we're using it for political gain and for high profits, but nobody's considering what do we want. And that's what we need to do. Half of the citizens in these communities don't even know who their councilmen are. They don't. Think about it. Do you know who your councilman is? Because they don't reach out to these communities. That's what I'm going to be about when I'm elected. I'm going in and out of these communities, going to these meetings to talk to what you want and be a call for what makes sense and bring it before city council. And I don't think I don't think these people are doing it.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Baylot, you have 60-second rebuttal.
Yeah, I think the Sumar Street is a controversial issue. It's talked about a lot. It's not going to solve everything for it. It's not going to automatically beautify that whole area. And there's only so much elected officials in the government can do. I think we need to work with the private sector. I think we need to encourage the private sector to do better. If you look at the intersection of Sam Rittenberg and Highway 61, 3 out of 4 of those businesses are just boarded up and closed and not doing anything. When the food line closed over on Sam Rittenberg, we were advocating for a Trader Joe's. I go all the way to Mount Pleasant to Trader Joe's and can't even find parking sometimes. So you can't tell me there's not enough business in West Ashley for another Trader Joe's. We went to our elected officials begging for that. They failed to act. Instead, we got an assault weapons superstore that's actually a kid's bus stop. It's just craziness what's going on. We want more. There's more businesses that want to come to West Ashley and earn our money. We need elected officials that are going to think about that and encourage that more. We haven't seen that now.
All right, Mr. Marolda, did you want a 60-second rebuttal? Did I see
Yes,
your
ma'am.
hand raised?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm sorry. Mr. Marolda's already had his rebuttal. There's one rebuttal per
Oh.
question.
I'm sorry about that.
No, thank you, Heidi. I thank you for checking on that. We are going to.
Williams wants a rebuttal.
Okay. All right, Mr. Tinkler.
Well, I guess I know Mr. Gilliard addressed me. I've taught with hundreds of people all across the district. I mean, I know there are several people on this very in this audience. I see Ms. Marcia Higgins. I see Ms. Diane Hamilton, who have come out and spoken in favor of this project. And it's because people are tired of looking at a parking lot. People are tired of looking at a slab. And they want something in the middle of their community where they can gather. And that's what the Piggly Wiggly was. Piggly Wiggly was a place that employed the people's children in this district. It was a place where you saw your elected officials. And we need to restore that. We need to bring that back. And as I've been saying on the trail, the option that has been through the review process is the option that we need to get done.
All right. Thank you very much. We are going to conclude with one last question before we go to your closing statement. And this question will begin with Mr. Tinkler. Are there any individuals or groups who have endorsed your candidacy, and who are they?
So I've received no endorsements from groups. I've received a number of endorsements from individuals, and they include neighborhood association presidents. They include school board or PTO presidents. They former neighborhood association presidents, neighborhood association treasurers, and I can list them off if you like. But the most important endorsement I think I've gotten is the endorsement of the one city council member in this race in this district, Aubrey Alexander, who is not my father or is not running for mayor. And I feel that's very important because Mr. Alexander, he did a fantastic job leading this district, and I look forward to using him as a resource along with the other members who have served here for any advice and recommendations if elected to city council.
All right, thank you. Mr. Baylot, are there any individuals or groups that you have been endorsed by, and would you share them with us, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I've received 3 important endorsements that mean a lot to me. The first is from my wife, Tatiana. Second is from my son, Miles. And the third is from my daughter, Melody. The rest of the endorsements I'm seeking are going door to door, talking to voters one-on-one, and asking them to their vote. I reject the support of any dark money groups, any group that comes into our community and parachutes these candidates out of nowhere, like the ones you're seeing causing havoc and circus on the school board right now. These are candidates that come out of nowhere. They're not part of the community. They haven't come up. You've not been seeing them doing work at neighborhood associations, PTOs. You've not seen them out being activists or anything. They just come out of nowhere. Next thing you know, they're on the school board because some dark money group spent millions of dollars pushing flyers and advertisements to get them in. I outwardly reject those groups. I would never seek or accept their endorsement, including Moms for Liberty is one in particular. And I want to make sure that you are aware that candidates who are endorsed by those kind of groups, who support those kind of groups, they're going to bring the nonsense, the money wasting, and the pure craziness that you're seeing on the school board. They want to bring that to city council. And I'm doing everything I can as a candidate, as an activist, as a person that cares about this community to stop that.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Gilliard, are there any individuals or groups that you have received endorsement from? And please share them with us.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And I'm not going to give you all of them, but the ones that are important to me are the people that live in the community. And just like he said earlier, you go door to door and they say they're going to vote for you. That's more important to me. You know, groups are good, but everybody in that group was not going to vote for you. Even though I attended several community meetings, I had many people who are in favor of what I believe in, but people like the Tammy Media Group, that organization supported me, okay? And again, there were other community groups that I've spoken to, but they don't always come right out and say the group is going to support you because they represent so many people. But I'm sorry, did you say something?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, again, that's more important to me, the individuals that I run into door to door that let me put my signs up that say, I'm going to support you. They may be a member of that group, but the group in totality may not say we're going to support you, but the majority will. So I'm going door to door, and that's the best way to do it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gilliard. Mr. Marolda, are there any individuals or groups that have endorsed your candidacy, and if so, who?
So I do have individuals as well as groups, as well as former elected officials who not only endorsed my candidacy, but actually asked me to run. People in voluntary positions within city government, on boards and commissions, serving in nonprofit capacities and neighborhood capacities, who came to me when our incumbent decided to run for mayor and therefore had to give up his seat, and asked me if I would do this. That is the endorsement that prompted me to do this in the first place. But I also agree with Mr. Gilliard. Going door to door and getting those individual personal endorsements is most important. I mean, business owners who have said, you know, I want to see you succeed. You're welcome to use my space to meet. That's an endorsement. That's one I've taken up, offers I've taken up many times. The sense of community investment in my success is the only endorsement I'm truly looking for. Chamber of Commerce came out last week and identified me and Mr. Tinkler as both qualified to run. And it's nice that they offered that opinion. But the community sense of investment in asking me to do this and investing their time, their resources, and their care into helping me achieve it is the only endorsement I need. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. We are going to start with our closing statements now. They are 60 seconds each. And we are going to start in reverse order as to how we did the opening statements. So Mr. Tinkler, you may go first with your 60-second closing statement.
Thank you. Well, again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank the candidates. As I've been knocking on doors the last month and a half or so, this is not easy. It's very hard work, and I know those of us with families, with full-time jobs. It's a huge undertaking, and I respect anyone who's going to jump into this race. The bottom line is, yeah, like I've said before, I've been in West Ashley my whole life. I feel like over those 40 years, West Ashley has not progressed in the way that I would like to see it progress. In fact, I think it's been backsliding over the last 20 years. And that is why I'm running in this race, because I feel like now is a perfect opportunity for West Ashley, given the redistricting. And over the next 10 years, we can get things done if we work together and we try to prevent dysfunction on city council.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shinkler. Mr. Marolda, your 60-second closing statement, please.
I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this. And I'd like to thank you three gentlemen for an excellent race so far, a great debate tonight. And I believe West Ashley has 4 great candidates to choose from. We're all here tonight. So in closing, I would just like to add that, reiterate that I do believe that my education, my prior experience, and my work thus far with nonprofit governance and the private sector has prepared me to tackle the challenge that this district faces. I'm not stepping up to do anything I haven't already done. I haven't served on council, but I've tackled problems, I've worked on them, picked up the litter, documented the history, written the policy documents, and advocated for the things that are important to me. That's why I'm running, and that's what I'm going with. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Gilliard, your 60-second closing statement, please.
Thank you. I would also like to reiterate what Mr. Marolda said. Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you for the candidates, because, hey, it's a big challenge now that I've seen you all. We've got some good qualified candidates, so thank you. I think that my experience in terms of management for many years, my experience with different local communities and organizations, the Neighborhoods Energized to Win, the youth involvement, the President's Council on Youth, and I almost forgot the Smallses on Magnolia Road, who also endorsed me. So people asked me to run. They came to me. They've been asking me for many years, and this was a perfect opportunity to do so. One wise man once said, you can get into a race, but if you're not asked to do that by the people, what are you doing that for? For self-ingratiation? No, you have to be a servant, which I plan to be, of the people, to serve and to rally their cause. And thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gilliard. Mr. Baylott, your closing statement, 60 seconds, please.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I just wanted to say, outside of being an activist, a community organizer, I've served on a few boards. I've served on the Health Advisory Committee for the Charleston County School District. When I lived in Richmond for a couple of years, I served on the Clean Cities Commission. I've been able to work with others to get things done, hard things done. But at the same time, I'm very outspoken, and I'm willing to call out a fool's errand when I see it. I've taken hits on social media. I've been attacked verbally. I've been attacked physically and sent to the emergency room for standing up for my beliefs. And I'm still here today, and I'm not going to stop, and I'm never going to stop fighting for the best interests of my community, our community, and the residents of this district and citywide. I just want to point out one thing, the elephant not in the room. If somebody doesn't take the time to tell you who they are, then you just have to assume who they are with who they associate with. And if you want more of the craziness that you're seeing on the school board, then you can vote for Mike Gaston. But if not, I think you should choose one of these fine candidates here tonight, hopefully me. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We would like to thank you individually and this group who has taken the time to come on Zoom tonight. We appreciate the time that you have given us to be able to hear from you. We encourage those in the audience, especially, to study the issues carefully and learn about the positions of each candidate. And then please vote for the choice of your candidate on November the 7th. Early voting will be available from October 23rd through November 4th. at the Charleston County Board of Elections office in North Charleston. The Board of Elections phone number is 843-844-8683. That phone number is 844-844-8683. Many thanks to our candidates for City Council District 9 tonight. We can virtually give all of them a warm round of applause. We'd appreciate it. And we also would like to thank the volunteers of the League of Women Voters who have put this together. So thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it very much. I hope everyone has a good night, and we will see you soon. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.